Hi, NSG community. How are you guys? It's been a minute since I have done a live. I think the last live that I did was the Is This Love? And now I'm back with the new title, a new live, and it's titled Can't See the Progress Over My Own Rejection. This one may have a similar feel to the imposter syndrome one I did a few weeks back, several weeks back, and yet it hits different because the topic of this live was birthed out of this idea that we strive towards things in life, and as we are making strides towards it, the reality of achieving it doesn't always sit with us. We don't fully own the reality that we may one day actually reach that goal. We're doing it, right? And that kind of sounds a little counter to the actions that we're taking. And yet, if we're honest with ourselves, some things may feel so big and so out of reach that we keep acting on this idea of hope or faith. For me it was faith, and I keep operating out of this mode of faith, believing that it's possible I could, and yet somewhere in the back of my mind not fully owning that. So fast forward, doing the work, and a lot of work is put into it, and then you get that thing. For me, interestingly enough, it's three things that I feel like I have received in this year, in this space, in this time, and now the ownership part, me owning it, is where the struggle comes in. And I wanted to speak on that because, of course, I like to give examples, and I will use my own self as an example for this one. And I'll also share that this is something that I am experiencing in real time. I'm working through this so that way I can enjoy the fact that I'm here. So I share this with you all to say that if you are finding yourself in a space where what you want, what you sought after, what you worked for, you are struggling to accept that you have, well then watch this one and we're gonna work through it together. So I mentioned that there were three things. So career-wise, work can be my 9 to 5. I always tell people like my 9 to 5 and then my business, right? This coaching NSG is very much mine. It's the thing that I am proud of. It's the thing that I work for. It's the gift that I offer back to God in appreciation, because I know that it was through Him that I have this. So there is a huge pride that I take in this. And while I am very much proud of this work, I'm also going to say I am sitting in a new space near the window. So, living in the city, we got the city soundtrack. So I hope it's not too distracting. I will try to keep my voice at a high enough level so that way you can hear me over whatever's going on outside. So anyway, back to what I was saying. The business for me is something that I am proud of, yet the ownership of it, I'm struggling to receive. And in struggling to feel like I own this, I am cheating myself out of happiness. I am robbing myself of the opportunity to really see my own progress because I keep rejecting the fact that I am actually here. The second thing would be home ownership. So I have thought about taking some steps and then pulled back to purchase a place for so long. And this year, just kind of acting off of like this strong urge, I decided to follow it, and I'm making some serious progressive moves. That I know that I'm doing the work. I know that I have coached myself through coming up with a plan. I know that I am following things through. And yet the ownership of the fact that I am at a point to where this is actually a possibility for me is something that I'm struggling to accept. The third thing, relationships, intimate relationships. Excuse me. Marriage has been something that I have felt I was made for as long as I can remember. And the idea of finding sustainable love that leads to marriage was like something that I was like really pushing for and going for. However, relationships are a struggle for me. They were a struggle for me. And so I've been single for about 2 years, single 2 years actually this month. And I did a lot of damn work, a lot of work on understanding myself, on understanding the patterns, on understanding what it was that I wanted to contribute to a relationship, what I wanted to receive from one. And then I started to be very intentional about not accepting anything that wasn't in alignment with what I wanted. Fast forward to one day, I have a conversation with someone who I had already known, and things didn't quite work out before, and then here we are in this new space, and I'm just like seeing all the things that I had asked for, all the things that I worked for, all of the things that I knew I was deserving of and would make me happy, and then it comes back it comes back and it lands on my lap. So those things are happening, and I'm just like, well, who knew that in 2021, this person, this black woman from the Bronx who grew up in the way that I did, who had the struggles that I had, who, had all the different insecurities on multiple levels that I had, would be here. I worked towards it. I worked towards being here. But I really didn't. I have learned recently that the ownership, the true belief that this was mine to have, wasn't as solid as I thought it would be. So I find myself in this space, appreciative and grateful, very grateful for the fact that I've arrived here. And yet there is a part of me that just cannot seem to really own it. Could not seem to really own it. And I changed the language on that because I am actively working on accepting where I am and owning it. And this is what I hope to support you all through in the coaching questions that I'm going to share later, and just kind of sharing this story now. It gets scary. It gets scary to think about how you work towards something, how you've made progress for years and years towards something, and then you finally see it. And for me, the fear comes in knowing that I've wanted this for so long, and is this real? Trusting that it's real, because when you want something so long, you start to think you see it in places where it's not. You start to chase after it and try to manufacture it in ways that are not conducive to your wellness and your best self. And through work on yourself, through discovery, and through overcoming challenges, you learn that there were things you needed to move out of the way before you could get here. And then when you get here, it comes fast. Like when you do the work and you have reached the level where God is ready to bless you with it, it hits fast. If you believe in the universe, if you believe in just kind of give and take, what you put out is what you're going to get back. Whatever you believe in, when you put in that work and you are moving in the right direction, the gifts that await you at the end, at that finish line, they're big and they're waiting, and it hits you, and it hits you hard, because it is a culmination of all the work that you have done to that day, to that very day. And so I find myself in this place where I am celebrating 3 major things in my life at the same time, and I am really actively pursuing the acceptance of it. The acceptance of my work paying off of me, the acceptance of me seeing something that I truly deserved and that was truly available for me. And I hope that in me sharing this, you will begin to think about the thing in your life, or the things in your life that you have really wanted and that you've worked for and that you've tried to get, or that you thought you had at one time and it just wasn't right that time, and then you continued to push forward and then you finally got it. I hope that you remember the journey that you took to get there, and I hope that that journey sustains you and brings you into a place of acceptance. When I was reflecting on where to go with this, right? Because this, I would say, is probably one of the most personal shares, because it's something that I'm currently going through. And what I usually like to do is to share things that I have worked through and have supported others through. And this is one that I am working through. So when I was thinking about what to share, I had to take a little bit of extra time on this one, and this was like about a week and a half in the making, and coming up with like the questions and rephrasing them and so forth. And one of the thoughts that came to mind as I was prepping was this whole idea of me reaching this place where I'm no longer worrying and I'm grateful, right? This is the space that I'm currently in. I'm not worried about losing. I'm not worried about trying to get these things. I'm grateful that I am in a space where I'm in a relationship, where I'm actively working on buying my first property, and where I am working on my own business. I'm grateful for these things. And yet I find myself grateful and not operating in a place of happiness, though. I'm grateful, but the idea, the happiness that I thought would automatically come, it didn't. It didn't. I had pockets of happiness. Followed by this whole idea of kind of like removing myself from the equation and just being grateful to God and saying, you know what, I have this because God brought me here. Well, yes. And He prepared me. I had to go through a lot of stuff. I had to uncover a lot of things. I had to really reflect on how my different experiences in life had impacted me and had broken my security and self down to a place where it wasn't serving me. And then I had to do the work to repair that. And now I'm here. Now I'm here where I'm actively pursuing these things. Now I'm here at the place where I have my own business. Now I'm here at the place where I'm in a relationship and I'm happy because the things that I wanted have fallen in my lap, or so it seems. And I say fall in my lap because it just feels like a little surreal. And that's still me working through my own challenge. It's basically the work that I've put in that's paying off for me now. And this is what I'm working through to accept. So me having this grateful heart and not pushing myself into a space of happiness is me rejecting my own progress. because my progress should yield happiness, because these are the things that I said I wanted to amass in life, and I have it. So interesting, I was happy along the journey, and now I'm at a place where there's a little bit of fear of how real and sustainable this is. And I know that fear is really just disbelief at play. And I have to be the holder of my own belief. I have to believe in my ability stronger than anyone can. So I am coming on this live very, very raw and talking this out with you all, because I know that there are many others who are in a similar seat. So together we can support one another. That's one of the foundations of my practice. It's this whole idea of community building, and where two or more people are gathered, to me, that's community. And so in coaching, it's very much a partnership of minds and energies and so forth. So whatever it is that you're seeking to work through, I partner with you to try to create this community of support for my clients, so that way they can move forward. So right now, consider this live an opening of a community of support for those who have reached a place where they're happy, or not happy, let me back it up, who have reached a place where they have finally achieved their goals and there's something still in the way blocking their happiness. I invite you to join the community with me as I work through minds. And I'll share with you what I have so far. And I would love to hear in the comments or in the DMs or whatever how this is landing for you and what your tips are and so forth. And again, the soundtrack of the neighborhood is blasting because I'm sitting in a new place, which is near the window. So let me keep this going. Okay, so one of the other things that came to mind as I was preparing was, what's the harm in owning the good? And I started thinking about that, and I was like, well, rejecting the good robs us of the gift of happiness that we've earned in the present. And so in terms of what's the harm in owning the good, I don't really have an answer for how owning the good is harmful. My immediate answer went to the impacts of rejecting the good, right? And I don't want to rob myself of any kind of happiness that I'm due, because I know I bust my ass to get here. So that was the first thing that helped propel me forward to say, hey, listen, I really have to get this one under wraps. And so I continued on, and I'm like, all right, I'm working through it. And I knew for me, accountability is big. So what grander stand of accountability than to put it out to the community and let them know this is what I'm working on. So here are the coaching questions. So I'm going to get straight to it. The coaching questions that I came up with, that I have been asking and exploring myself, and I hope that you find them helpful as well, is, what is my current reality? So the way that I've been using that question is as a constant reminder, like a check-in to say, what is happening right now in your life? And I have to remind myself, I have my own business. I have a good 9-to-5 that's allowing me to afford to be able to buy my own place. And I have a man who is checking every single day, every conversation we have, off all of the things that I knew I wanted and I knew I deserved. And when I ask myself, what is my current reality? That's my answer. I also recognize that within my current reality, there is this piece of me that is grateful, and I'm not yet experiencing the happiness. So I add that because I like to be real with myself. I feel like that's the only way we can move forward. Instead of just only saying I'm going to force myself to see the good, in the back of our minds, we know that there's some kind of self-doubt that exists. So bring that to the surface so that way you can work through it. So again, first question, what is my current reality? Second question, what's the good in my present? What's the good in my present reality? Now, this is where you push yourself to see the good. So the first question may yield a little bit of both. Or the first question, depending on where you are, may yield a lot of the challenges of where you are. This question encourages and pushes and calls for you to look just at the good. What is the good in my present reality? And I'm not going to go over that because I already shared what mine is, so you let me know what yours is. The third question, what is my fear? Fear is somewhere in there. And this is where a lot of the work may come from. You know your reality, you know what's good about it, so now what? What is your fear telling you? What is the fear holding you back from? So that may be a question that you want to ask yourself, right? What is my fear? And then add on to it, what is it holding me back from? What is it telling me? The fourth question, how did the good come into existence? So this is one where we want to start to explore how our good came to be. And for me, when I was thinking about this, it took me back to the work that I did. It took me back to the ways that I had to release the pains and the hurts, the ways that I had to I first had to acknowledge that it existed and it was impacting my behaviors. And then after I realized how it was impacting my behaviors, I had to push myself to do something different. And then from there, I had to believe and act in accordance with this belief that I can get more. So how did the good come into existence? That is where you get to reflect on the steps that you took to reach this point and really look at it from a place of good. Look at it, the lessons are good. The lessons propelled you forward. It became a roadmap forward for you because you learned things from your experiences that you decided to put into action. That's the good. And then the last question, how can I begin, or for some of us, continue to find happiness through the fear? The fear is going to be there. So for me, the fear of this may not be real, this may not be sustainable, that's going to be there. And yet that doesn't mean that I can't still see the good. And as I mentioned earlier, happiness is the acceptance of the good in your life's experiences. It is you saying to yourself that you've reached a point where you are so happy because you accepted that there is good in your life's experiences. You've accepted that there's good that's yours. You take ownership of the good. There is a place in you that is not going to let fear rob you anymore. So this last question, how can I begin or continue to find happiness through the fear? This is where you want to start putting some action steps in place for yourself and answering those questions and then continuing to live them out. And over time, as with everything, it becomes easier to the point where then it becomes yours. You've adopted it. You own it. NSG, thank you all for watching. I hope that this is landing for you in a positive way. If it is, share. If you don't feel that this message was for you and you think it would help someone else, share. Send me some messages, comment in the comments section on this video. Let me know what's going on. Let me know what you're experiencing, and we will create a community of support around this topic. For all other things that come up, feel free to message me. Consultation sessions for coaching, because one thing I'll say this, coaching it's like a gateway to our success. Meeting with a coach helps to open and activate parts of ourselves that we didn't even really fully know existed, new, that we didn't know existed. So if you are ready to open your gateway, sign up. The link is in my bio. Sign up for a consultation session or book your coaching session. Right now, for all first-time coachees, it is 25% off. The code is NSG First 25. That's all caps. NSG First 25 to receive 25% off your first coaching package or session, whichever one you choose to do. In the meantime, I also have workshops coming up. So I have one on love to help talk about how to identify what you want to receive, and also to reflect on the ways that your growth have allowed you to give to a partner. And it's all about being able to identify those things and communicate them. So we go through practice opportunities so you can practice communicating them and hearing, getting feedback on how it lands, so that way you can continue to make sure that you're speaking to the points that you truly wish to put out there. The other workshop that I have coming up is about templates of life, and this one is where we will go into discovering how the narratives that we tell ourselves have shaped us over time and how to undo those narratives. So if something happened to you, what was that thing that happened? How is it impacting your life? What is it holding you back from? And then we'll uncover those things and reverse the template. So that narrative will no longer be the thing to hold you back. We will uncover what it is and then rework that template so that way it's working out for your good. So those are the two workshops that I have going on, and those can be found under the bio. And in the meantime, of course, never stop growing. Take care.